Some places are known for the important and interesting events that occurred there. Today, we will talk about the Nickajack Cave in Marion County near the Tennessee-Georgia border and the dangerous event that took place there. This is the story of David Gant. On the evening of August 15, 1992, David Gant and a friend illegally entered Nickajack Cave in search of a catfish, and this was the beginning of David Gant's biggest nightmare. Nickajack Cave has been known for centuries. To the Confederacy, the cave has been a source of the saltpeter they used to make gunpowder. Renegade Chickamauga Indians held war dances close to the huge entrance as they plotted to ignore the white settlers. For some time, the cave was even commercialized. For years, when that failed venture, its passageways had been a mecca for the adventurous. When the gates of Nickajack Dam closed, the water rose to flood the cave. When the water had stopped, about 15 feet of the entrance remained, about 100 feet back in the passage, and the ceiling descended and disappeared into the green waters of Lake Nickajack. Since 1980, the Nickajack Cave has been protected by TVA as a sanctuary for the thousands of endangered Indiana bats that made it their home. A heavy chain-link fence blocked entry, and a sign told of the bats and the stiff penalties for violators. Late on Sunday, August 15, 1992, David Gant and a friend entered the water outside the fence. The divers knew it was forbidden to explore the cave above the water. Underwater, they wouldn't be seen, and they were not likely to disturb the bats. They were trained to be in open water diving, but they had gone into the cave 3 times before. The night before, Gant had gotten a tremendous catfish, which had fled back into the darkness. This adventure would be an attempt to recover the trophy fish. The visibility in the lake's murky waters was about 2 feet, but Gant and his companion knew it would clear somewhat inside. As they descended, the rays of their dive lights disappeared into a greenish nothingness, illuminated a muddy, rocky bottom. Sometime later, still seeing no sign of the fish, Gant checked his air gauge. The two had wandered too far back into the Nickajack Cave, into a no-man's land of completely flooded passages. Then, getting the attention of his partner, he signaled that it was time to surface. They followed their bubbles upwards, expecting to emerge into the air-filled portion of the cave, just to see a solid cave ceiling appear in their lights. Rapidly sending signals, the two dropped lower in the water and swam in the direction they thought to be out, then went toward the surface. Both men panicked. Their dive fins had changed the situation on the cave floor into a murky underwater fog, giving them no visibility. The friend was the more lucky, and he emerged into an air-filled passage near the entrance with his empty tank. Having gone even deeper into the cave, Gant surfaced alone in an air pocket, entirely cut off from the world above. The next morning, TVA security was notified by Gant's friend of the situation at Nickajack, and a rescue operation was initiated. The call had gone out as a water rescue, and several dive rescue teams had responded. Then, after evaluating and thinking that Gant would have died either from drowning or hypoxia asphyxiation in an air pocket if he had been fortunate enough to find one, or hypothermia, the IC of the lead dive team stated that this was a recovery operation instead of an active rescue. While highly skilled in open water search and rescue, only one group of the rescue divers were trained in cave diving. Of the 10 agencies and 100-plus operators who gathered at the entrance, not one person was qualified to dive into the murky depths of Nickajack Cave. The nearest teams with that specialty were about 2 hours away in Atlanta and Huntsville, and add another hour for getting those teams. Then the captain of the team was informed of the incident. Buddy Lane and his team have more experience in the cave rescue than any other team in the U.S., most likely any team in the world. Knowing that the divers were not up to this specialized task of entering the cave, and that Gant may still be alive in an air pocket, Lane pleaded by telephone that trained caver divers must be called in. This request was refused. Refusing permission even to approach the cave, Lane regularly pleaded that cave must divers be used. He asked that he should be allowed to come to the scene to assess the situation, but the IC kept stating this was a water rescue, not a cave rescue, and did not want to further endanger any divers by sending them deep into the cave. By dawn, the rescue teams at Nickajack had made 3 dives into the cave's main cavern entrance, a 200-foot pool with a high ceiling where the bats roost. Using short reels of the guideline, the divers performed a circular search near the entrance, finding nothing. Exhausted, The divers were convinced they needed help. They agreed to allow cave divers to be put in motion from Huntsville, 100 miles distant. Knowing how skilled Lane and Curry are and trusting their judgment, Caldwell drove to the incident scene 45 minutes from his home. There, he was greeted at a mobile command post by the incident commander, who again insisted that the operation was a recovery, not an active rescue. Was Gant still alive? Should the lives of the other rescuers be put at serious risk on the small chance Gant was still alive? As Caldwell contemplated his options, he decided that Lane and Curry were on the right track. Caldwell talked with Gant's family members and was so moved by their prayers that he promised them that until he could know that Gant was dead, he would have the IC treat the incident as an active rescue. TVA had moved thousands of gallons of water to lower down the lake from around 631 feet to 631 feet 10 inches. The movement of this mass of water required TVA to adjust generating schedules for the entire system. Caldwell made sure that TVA would hold the lake at that level until the rescue operations were complete, and said to Curry and Lane, who were en route, of the circumstances. Lane was optimistic, recalling all those ceiling passageway heights on TVA's survey maps at 632 feet. They'd have an air passage deep into the dangerous cave. Caldwell said that the IC supported the active rescue effort and provided Lane and Curry, who had arrived at the scene, access to the cave entrance by boat. The water level had dropped to initiate a fast water cave rescue, negating the need for scuba gear. Then Lane and Curry swam back into the cave using borrowed fins and normal caving gear. The two had a wealth of experience in wet caves, often pushing through passages flooded to within an inch of the roof. There, with no more than 2 inches to breathe, they made their way deep into the cave, spooked only by the large fish that occasionally appeared in front of them. Gant was alive by good decision-making protocol. Just as the oxygen level in his air pocket had diminished to a critical level, when Gant was scant moments away from losing focus, the water hiding the passage into his air pocket had dropped a critical last fraction of an inch. Then, as the water gently streamed the newly exposed ceiling, Gant felt a sudden rush of cool air on his face. As he waited and regained strength and hope, the airflow grew stronger as the gap between the ceiling and water slowly grew to 1.5 inches. David Gant was guided out through the low cave passages with those who would take the diver to the mouth of the cave and daylight Gant never thought he would see again. And as he emerged from the cave, a shout of "He's alive!" spread down the banks of the river. It was a miraculous rescue and reunion. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, take a deep dive into the like and subscribe buttons. Let us know what you thought of it in the comments. See you again soon in another video, if you dare.